Welcome to Dr. Will Smith's Playlist, where we review many styles of music with a focus on jazz, world music, and fusion artists from around the world. We also have some cool extras like interviews, news, resources, and general musings. I've been a professional musician for over 20 years and have toured the world, played many styles of music, and I have stories for days. I've met some wonderful musicians and people, and on this show, I get to talk about some of my favorite music and musicians, and also get to meet some new people. Please visit my blog at drwillsmithsplaylist.blogspot.com to read my latest review. And don't forget to leave a comment and follow us on the blog, Twitter, and on Facebook. If you're an artist and would like for me to check out your music, send me an email to drwillsmithsplaylist@gmail.com. Right now, I want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. All right, being that this is my first broadcast, I want to introduce myself to you and tell you a little bit about my background. I've played with many different musicians, and aside from having my own group, the West Group, we've toured a lot of places around the world, but I've also produced and recorded music for many notable artists. And I wrote a couple of books too, Hip Hop as Performance and Ritual and How to Be an MC. And I am the ethnomusicology program coordinator at North Carolina Central University. And I'm also teaching adjunct classes at Howard University. And before that, I was the jazz ensemble director at American University. So some of the musicians that I've played with or recorded with, got on tour with, Hezekiah Walker and Fred Hammond, two gospel artists. But I've also worked with jazz artists, Donald Byrd, James Moody, Kenny Burrell, Gary Thomas, Antonio Hart, Antoine Roney, and Dee Dee Bridgewater, Mike Phillips, Cinder Williams, and Malcolm Jamal Warner. And I've also played with Ethiopian artists Wayna, Aster Weke, and Gigi. And interestingly enough, I've also opened for DMC from Run DMC. And my group has opened for McCoy Tyner, Ravi Coltrane, John Hendricks, and Cassandra Wilson. So I've pretty much gone a lot of different genres, gone over a lot of different genres in my career. And besides performing for and opening for other artists, I've played at many jazz festivals, the Anguilla Tranquility Jazz Festival, Festival in Bonaire, St. Lucia, played in New York, UK, Morocco, India, South Africa. And I'm also an avid composer and done some writing for TV and film. But that's enough about me for now. I want to talk about some of this music. I want to have our funky music tip. And our funky music tip is basically a resource for musicians, for you all to use on your gigs or performances. And it could be an electronic gadget, could be a soft piece of software or a website. And these are also funky tips for listeners in the audience, too. I'm not just going to keep it just reserved for musicians, because I know that there's music aficionados out there that are not necessarily musicians. So I'll give you all some funky music tips over time as well. But this one today is definitely for musicians. And it's basically a new gadget that I came across. I was on a wedding gig, and the sound guy was mixing from the audience. And I thought that was pretty weird. I saw him with his tablet, his iPad, and he was mixing from his iPad. So that piqued my interest. And I said, well, let me check this out. Let me ask him about this. And it turned out to be a Presonus StudioLive mixer. And it has an interface with an iPad app. And you can mix from anywhere in the room. And you can stand next to the horn player and see what's in his monitors. And you can go out into the audience and see what's happening, how the audience is hearing everything. So I thought that was a very interesting, very timely invention, so that we all can use basically to make all of our performances sound better. And no more, hey, sound man, turn me up. You got instant sound correction. So this is a great development that I saw. All right, so that's our funky music tip for the day. And if you want to check out some of this, some of these details, some of these things that I'm pointing out to you, these gadgets, this software and whatnot, you can go to the blog, Dr. Will Smith's playlist.blogspot.com, and go under this episode, which is episode 1. This is our first show. And you can go check out the links to check out some of the gadgets. And you can also see videos. I usually try to post the YouTube video of what I'm talking about. All right. So next thing I want to talk about is music news. And this is our next segment, which is basically brief ear-catching things that are going on in the news. And one thing that I thought that was very interesting that's going on in the news is what's happening in the classical music world. And if you've paid attention to anything in the news, and it's not just been on NPR, it's been on national news networks, what's going on in classical music, actually the triple perfect storm going on. There's a conductor in Minnesota who just quit the Minnesota Orchestra amid basic differences with management. But of course, it's a lot of it is based in financial troubles, but they canceled 2 Carnegie Hall performances. So he quit because that was one of his stipulations. If they canceled the concerts, he'll quit. There's also to note that the orchestra players make around $100,000 a year, which an article, a UK article about salaries in American orchestras was pointing out is way above any salaried employee over in the UK, orchestra employee. And so this UK article is pretty much deriding a lot of the American orchestra players, saying that they're making so much money. I think the Minnesota Orchestra is 5th in the world, 5th in the nation in terms of salary for orchestras. So, but another key piece of news in the classical world, the New York City Opera has filed for bankruptcy. They've closed, basically. That's a wrap for them. They've closed. That's one piece. And then the last piece is the Carnegie Hall stagehands. I did not know this, but Carnegie Hall stagehands make, and these are stagehands, these are the orchestral players. Stagehands make around $400,000 a year. I did not even know that. I guess I'm in the wrong business. But the orchestra players don't make that much money, as much money as the stagehands. But I thought it was very interesting that they were paid so high. Of course, it's 60-hour work weeks, and they have to work on holidays. But nonetheless, $400,000. So, but they were on strike. They didn't want management to keep them out of the jurisdiction of an expanded program that they had. So that was the latest thing. They were on strike, but their strike canceled opening night. I think that was the big news. That's why it was being reported on, is that it canceled opening night. So lot happening in the classical music world, and a lot of stuff happens around budgets. And this is probably a larger conversation. Classical music or venues or orchestras keeping up with the times, and how that's going to influence their programming, their fundraising, and what happens with the orchestra. So keep your eye on that. All right, the next thing, let's go into our reviews. And the latest review that I have is a review of a group by the name of Snarky Puppy. It's a weird name, I thought, too, Snarky Puppy. And a friend of mine introduced me to them. He was really high up on their music, and I just checked a couple pieces of theirs out on YouTube, and I like what I heard. You know, they had some good stuff. But this piece called Something, I wanted to review because somebody on my Facebook friends had posted this, and they were saying how great it was. So I just wanted to check it out. And to my ear, The shining moment, of course, of the recording is one with Lalah Hathaway. And Lalah Hathaway is featured in this. She's soloing and singing. And probably around 6 minutes, 20 some seconds in, she sings a chord with her voice. And technically it's not a chord, it's 2 notes. But she implies a chord with her voice, but she does something that the voice is not supposed to do, which is sing more than 1 note. So most people think that the voice can only sing 1 note, but she's singing 2 notes. So this is very interesting. Of course, it's very hip because musicians, of course, jazz musicians always like to bring in new conventions and new inventions, musical inventions. But what is key with Lalah's performance is that she uses it musically. And a lot of people, will just throw in a sound here and there just because it's hip. Well, the thing about Lalah is that she uses it in a musical way. And that's what I appreciated. So overall, the performance of the group is well done. It's a combination of a lot of gospel musicians, a couple gospel musicians and a couple rock musicians. And so the blend, I think, is very well done. But one of the other key things about this group is that they include an audience in their performance. So they have several people with headphones on as the audience listening to the actual performance. So I thought that is a very unique feature of that group. And their performance is part of the composition, is part of the performance. The audience is actually part of the performance. And I thought that that's something that's notable to them. And if you go on YouTube, you can check out some of their other shows, some of their other recordings, their tracks, and they're all live. And so that brings another element of spontaneity, of creativity to what's happening. So definitely check them out. I rated them 4 headphones. I give them headphones instead of stars. So if you check out my blog, you can read my review, my actual physical review. And there's a couple other reviews that I've posted up already. So be sure to check that out at drwillsmithsplaylist.blogspot.com. And that about wraps up my first show. And I want to thank you all for listening. And again, please go by and follow us on the blog and follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. But I want to leave you with an inspiring thought. There are 3 C's in life, which are choices, chances, and changes. And you must make a choice to take a chance, or your life will never change. So with that thought, thank you all, and peace and blessings. If you like what you've heard, please visit drwillsmithsplaylist.blogspot.com for more interviews, reviews, articles, and general musings about music. Please leave us a comment. Also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you all for listening, and have a great week.